These are the notes for section 7.1. In 7.1, you were given an introduction to construction. So we're going to do an example of a sketch, a drawing, and a construction to create a rhombus. And we're going to be given an angle and a side length AB. Before we can do that, though, we want to remind ourselves that a rhombus is a quadrilateral with all four sides congruent. That's the big piece of a rhombus. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at what it means to sketch. A sketch is when you make a diagram without using measuring tools, so freehand. So all I'm going to use is my pencil. And I'm going to do my very best to get a shape that has all four sides congruent. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, maybe about here is where I should place D. And then if I kind of go like this, maybe C should go there. So now I've got a rhombus. Now, I'm not an artist. And clearly this is a little imprecise, but that's what it means to make a sketch. It is to be imprecise. It's the least precise way that we can create a drawing, create a diagram. The next way to do this is to what we do call draw. When we draw a diagram, we use two measuring tools. We use a ruler, which you are all familiar with, and we use what's called a protractor. A protractor is a tool that allows us to measure angles. So what I'm going to do here is I just want to underline the tools we can use. I'm going to first start off by measuring my length AB. I'll use inches because why not? It looks here like I've got a length that's about 1.5. I'm going to copy that length up here. So I've got a length of about 1.5 is right here. So I will mark that as my D, just as I did above. Now, I know that I need to have the same tilt on the AD line and what's going to be my BC line. So I'm going to measure this angle right here with my protractor. And I measure the angle by putting the center of the protractor on the corner of the angle, the vertex. And then I look at this and I count up, starting at 0, 10, 20, 30, a little bit more than 40 degrees. So then I'm going to come over here. And again, in this case, though, my angle has to be out here, but it still needs to be 40 degrees. So I am going to line it up where the B is where my new vertex is going to be, and about 40 degrees is right about here. So now I can make the 40 degree. Now you'll notice that this line is longer than it needs to be, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, that's kind of what I want. So now I'm going to do the job of also measuring that 1.5. So 1.5 is about right there. So I label that as C, and then I connect my D and C. Now, this looks more like an exact rhombus. It is a more precise way to create a rhombus, to draw a rhombus. However, it is not the most precise way. The most precise way is what we call construction or constructing. In a construction, we use two tools. We use a compass, and the compass allows us to make circles and arcs, and it allows us to measure things because the compass is open a certain length. I don't have a number for that length, but it is a length. And a straight edge. Now, I'm going to use for my straight edge a ruler. However, I am going to pretend it has no numbers. because the straight edge is used only for making a straight line. I am not going to measure anything with this straight edge. I am only going to use it to make straight lines. So straight line, straight line. I just want to remind you before we commence with the construction what a circle is. A circle is the set of all points in a plane that are equidistant from a fixed point called the center. And I will draw that diagram on the next page. So if I place my center at that lovely little spot, and I can have my compass open to any length, and I use my compass, I can make a circle so that we know the distance from C to A is the same as the distance from C to B, is the same as the distance from C to D, etc. So now back to our construction. In our construction with a rhombus, we know that the lengths of the four sides have to be equal. So I'm going to use my compass to measure this length AB. There I go, I got a length AB. I know that this length AB has to be the same length that I have on this line, so I copy that length. Because I haven't changed the opening of my compass, I know that this length here is the same as this length here. Now, here comes the part that takes a little bit of thinking a little more deeply. So I now know that I have 3 of the 4 corners, and I know that I need my 4th corner somewhere out here. Now, in order to get that 4th corner somewhere out here, I need to measure again. And so again, I'm going to keep my compass the same opening because this is the length I want for my rhombus. So I know if I make a mark, an arc from B, I know that the distance from B to here is the same as A to B, and from here to B is the same as A to B, and from here to here as the same as A to B. So I know that my point C has to be somewhere on this arc. I also know that my point C has to be the same distance from D. So now I have this lovely place where all of the points on this arc are the same distance from D. And where those arcs intersect, that is the place that has the distance from D to C being exactly the same as the distance from C to B, which is exactly the same as the distance from A to B and A to D. Now here comes my straight edge. My straight edge is what allows me to make straight lines. And I obviously need a straight line from B to C and D to C in order to finish my construction. So I place my straight edge and I try to do this as exact as possible. So using a pencil with a really sharp point is often very helpful. I'm going to flip my paper so that I can orient it in a way that's just a little easier for me to make a straight line. And I connect C to D. So we have 3 different ways to create the diagram of a rhombus. We have our freehand, which is I'm just sketching stuff. I'm using my pen and just sort of estimating. We have the drawing method, and I measured some angles and some lengths. But again, my measuring was not precise. It was about 40-degree angle. It was about 1.5 inches. In this case, with the construction, I didn't have to use any numbers. All I had to do was use my measuring tool. So now this is the most precise way to create a rhombus. I have measured the length of AB and copied that measure here, and then copied the measure out here to get my 4th vertex.